Hello, everyone, and welcome to Loro and Friends Inside the NFL. Hope everybody had a great Halloween. Hope everybody enjoyed the World Series. I know, Ben, you and I were both bummed that both our Dodgers and Red Sox didn't go head-to-head, but maybe next year they will. I'm Loro Antonio. With me is Ben Curse. The Patriots, however, got a big win in the City of Angels in my hometown, and they did it with offense and defense. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Ben, how's it going, my friend?
Doing good. It feels like I haven't talked to you in a while, so hopefully all is well with you. And I hope you had a really good Halloween. I just kind of, for the most part, relaxed after working and enjoyed a nice Patriots win. And obviously, the World Series for those that are joining, anybody that is joining us from the Atlanta area or in that area, I was very happy. I cannot stand the Astros just for some odd reason. Well, not only, I mean, they're annoyingly good, but just cannot stand them regardless. There's some players I don't mind, but just cannot stand that team at all. So I was really happy that they lost, and for the Braves specifically, really happy for a guy like Freddie Freeman and for that team that's just been suffering a lot of heartbreak. So good for them, and it definitely feels weird the first day without baseball. Today, obviously you have the offseason coming up, and there's actually a move that actually happened. I think Tucker Barnhart, a catcher from the Reds, it wasn't bad. He wants the Tigers today, so I guess you could say the stove, I guess, is kind of heating a little bit. And I think by the 7th or whatever, get have free agency kind of open up the talks, and sooner than later you have winter meetings. Then you'll get to, I know we've talked a lot off the air about the CBA situation, but well, obviously we off the air as well. Lower, we talked about doing our own baseball show, so that should be a lot of fun for those that are joining in tonight. But hope you're doing well tonight, Laura, and looking forward to talking some football because there's definitely been a lot lately in the world of not only for the Patriots but a lot just in football to talk about. And so we'll try to get to everything during this week and the latest. And for those that are joining, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, I missed you on Extra Point. I mean, we could have done it, but I was just too tired calling the World Series. But we'll be back Sunday for Extra Point.
Yeah, maybe we might add an hour. Maybe we might add up a little bit more so we could definitely catch up on that time because I love to definitely catch up on a lot. But honestly, we probably talk a lot. Even tonight, about, a lot of the stuff that we kind of talk about the Extra Point is kind of the stuff that we talk here is kind of a little bit of a, I wouldn't say like a build off, but kind of very similar. A lot of stuff that we maybe either missed that we talked about on the Extra Point or just some stuff that we kind of want to bring back into conversation. But here we are to talk about, whatever we want to talk about. And definitely a lot of storylines, stuff that happened today, stuff that, it was the Patriots game, but there's a lot to get into. So looking forward to it.
All right, let's start with the headlines here. One of the top headlines. Let's start with Henry Ruggs being released by the Las Vegas Raiders after a fatal car crash that nearly lost his life, but luckily he and the passenger were okay. But what he did, it was reckless driving, and I advise people that if you are driving out there, don't drive like that.
Yeah, it's just absolutely it. I mean, I was hoping after first seeing that, I hope Henry Ruggs was going to be okay. But then after seeing that he was the one that was, had almost 15 plus drinks before at like Top Golf. I think my dad told me that tonight, and then decided to go out on some Corvette going like 100 miles plus or whatever, and going with like a 20-plus-year-old. No matter who's in the car. I mean, you shouldn't be going anything like that and going like that while drunk the night before, like crazy. I mean, that's just do not drink and drive at all. And personally, it's just not a good combination. You just don't want to get anybody hurt. And this seemed extremely dangerous, extremely dangerous. So Henry Ruggs doesn't, I don't think, deserve to be in the NFL anymore and play. They obviously have to get more into talking about, but the Raiders, of course, did the right thing to release him. I don't care how much, you are talent-wise. If you're doing dumb stuff like that off the field, really dumb stuff like that, you should have the release to leave. And this is why we have car services. At night like this, this seemed like something extremely avoidable. If you're going to be out like this and you're drinking like crazy, take an Uber, take a Lyft. There's definitely ways you can do about that. I mean, there shouldn't be an excuse in terms of seeing a report like that and just like, as they say, Laura, I know it's not usually about the people. Not worry about yourself, but just the people around you. There's just some people out there that you just have to question like crazy. And just something like that's just such a thing you just hate seeing. But regardless of the fact, hopefully Henry Ruggs can get for sure help because he definitely needs it after what happened there. And definitely unfortunate to hear about the passing of one or two of those patients that was in the car. So it's definitely just a very tragic, a very idiotic decision that he made. Just definitely a very hard and just it's a lot to basically, um, get your head around. With this situation, kind of like this.
Yes, you're absolutely right. I mean, something you don't want to like mess with. Okay, so anyways, now let's talk about the next thing we're going to talk about is that Aaron Rodgers has tested positive for COVID-19. We are not going to see Aaron Rodgers go up against Patrick Mahomes. I'm kind of bummed about that.
Me too. I mean, as much as Patrick Mahomes has really kind of struggled the last couple of weeks, I've always kind of wanted to see this matchup as in like a Super Bowl or just a matchup just in general, and we were looking forward to it. This is obviously going to be a big primetime game, and it would have been great if Rodgers did play. I think he would have absolutely torn up the Chiefs defense. I think Jordan Love has a chance, but yeah, But if Aaron Rodgers, it doesn't seem like he was unvaccinated. It didn't seem like he was vaccinated. It seemed like he was trying to take an alternative in terms of like a vaccination. But regardless of the fact, I mean, Rodgers, of course, has had a lot, off the field. Of course, he's had a great season. But these are decisions, that you make, and if it's not only this weekend, who knows what happens the next week. You never know about these type of things. So, but yeah, it was definitely unfortunate. I would have loved to see Rodgers and Mahomes go at it. I thought it was just quarterback wise, just two of the best out there in the league. And so, yeah, it was going to tough to hear that he wasn't going to be able to play on Sunday, but hopefully it's going to be okay to go for the remainder of the season because regardless of, the Packers, of course, need to know in terms of what his situation is moving forward. I know that he probably won't get traded, after the season right away. We'll have to see how things kind of go from there. But, him being in the headlines definitely has a skip to beat for sure. And, him now testing positive, of course, is now kind of an add-on here. So hopefully he's going to be okay. But it's obviously a very big bummer that he can't play on Sunday.
It is a bummer here. Now we'll talk about one of the next headlines that we'll talk about is that Von Miller is an LA Ram. I think the Rams got better with that pick, but I think the Broncos got worse without Bob Miller. I mean, but the Broncos got worse without Von Miller. I beg your pardon.
Yeah, so the NFL trade deadline was on Tuesday, and we of course, I mean, we were supposed to do our thing last night, but of course, with the World Series and probably other things, we decided to do tonight our show. And the NFL trade deadline it does not stack up with. I understand, teams, if they want to stay put in there, but there was absolutely literally no activity of like any even like mini moves. It was more like the NFL more like moves that weren't trades. It was more like positive tests and obviously the situation for Ruggs, but the Von Miller definitely that move was a big bombshell. I don't think a lot of people expected that to happen. I think Von Miller was expecting he was going to be a Bronco for life. Yeah, I mean, Broncos only got a couple picks for Von Miller, and this is just going to make their defense. Their defense was already scary enough with Leonard Floyd, of course, of Aaron Donald. You have Jalen Ramsey, one of the best secondary players in the league. And you had a guy like Von Miller. This kind of reminds me of like a J.J. Watt situation going from Houston to, I mean, not to that certain degree because, Houston was really, really bad and they were really crumbling. But Denver is just kind of in a situation that, yes, they're 4-4, but they're playing a really tough division and they don't know their quarterback situation after this year. They're definitely going to have changes. But, yeah, I mean, for NFC teams, I mean, this probably puts them without a doubt not only in top 3. This could be, besides Tampa Bay, this is for sure probably the best NFC team out there. I mean, top to bottom. You look at that offense, you add that defense and that front with a guy like Von Miller, who's just been a sack machine over his career for so long in Denver, as we've obviously seen him play against our Patriots for a long period of time. He's not the same guy he used to be, but he still has it. And I think that, whether it's on pass downs, rush downs, he's actually, too, going back with the defensive coordinator he knows quite well, and Wade Phillips, who he played with for a Super Bowl that he won in Denver and a couple seasons that Wade Phillips was in Denver. So it's a great move all around for the Rams. For Denver, of course, this is obviously a move to show that, they're obviously moving on from a big-time franchise player that's been there for so long. I think he's been there between 9 and 11 years. So, of course, he had a great run there, obviously getting the ring. But, they're going into kind of a rebuild type of situation. There was rumors out there maybe Kyle Fuller could have been on the move, Kareem Jackson potentially, so Melvin Gordon. So, and then, of course, Teddy Bridgewater, Andrew Luck, of course. We'll have to see their situations after the season. They're probably, if not one, they'll both probably be on the move somewhere else too. So there's a lot of turnover in Denver, and obviously when you move on from a guy like Von Miller, you're not moving to get yourself better. You're getting yourself to kind of look for the future and just kind of look at it. Yeah, we could still kind of be with ourselves record wise in the division, but we're not looking at ourselves to kind of make a big time I would say run here. You know what I'm saying? I just feel like they're really not in that situation to go on a big run. They were 3-0, right? And then they kind of they lost the last three, and then they just played Washington. And Washington offensive wise really hasn't done a whole lot. So I mean, and they barely beat them. So I mean, I still don't have a lot of faith in that Denver team. Plus, I think Bradley Chubb's been out too. So I mean, a lot of young guys, top to bottom, that Denver team. So it's a big change. That's all I can say. But big time move for the Rams for sure.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you look at it here, I think that the Rams are going to get a lot better. I think the Rams are going to win the Super Bowl with what they got. I mean, they gave up so much to get Von Miller. You have to expect that the Rams would win the Super Bowl here. Now, let's talk about the Patriots and Chargers. That was a really good win for the Patriots. They're 4-4 right now, and you know what? I say they're going to go 5-4 against Carolina. I expect them to get this win in Carolina.
Well, we've said, Loro, right, that, the start of the season, they looked really flat, but they were in a lot of, crucial close games that just could not close, right? And, they had some good starts and they couldn't finish them. And, it just seemed like, things weren't really working out together. And, they beat the Jets, right, the second week, but it didn't seem that pretty. The next game that they won was against the Texans. They kind of came back, but they really did not play really clean football to win that game. And then the Jets game at home, they scored 50+ points. The Jets are, you can't just see they're the Jets, but they played a decent game. But I need to see it, of course, against a really good caliber team. And the Chargers, the Patriots have had their number, but the Chargers have been playing great football, great quarterback, a really good receiving core with Keenan Allen, Mike Williams. Jared Cook at tight end, Austin Eckler was playing at running back. So they just had a plethora of weapons. And, with the Patriots defense and all that, obviously they had their hands full. And this is a big one. You're 3-4, and right before the trade deadline, you want to make yourself kind of proven to people that you're kind of back in the race here. And, you're tied now. And who would have thought this? I think people would have called me crazy or high. I would have told you you're crazy or high, but you're the same record right now as the Kansas City Chiefs. And the Kansas City Chiefs are probably for sure still going to find a way to make the playoffs. So if you're tied, a young kind of Patriots are considered like a young kind of rebuilding type team, and you're tied right now record wise with a team like Kansas City. You're still looking okay here. And the thing about the Patriots is a lot of their losses, they, really outside of that Saints game where I don't think they really played that great at all. But outside of the game, the Tampa game they lost really close. The Damon Harris game against Miami the first week. And then that Tampa game where you're right in it, if the Colt could have made that field goal, who knows about Brady going down. But you were close and all. And then that Dallas game that they lost too. You took a really good Dallas team, a healthy team, all the way to overtime, and you had a chance to win that one too. You had a couple stops away potentially even winning that game. So, this Patriots team, yes, it's obviously hasn't been, it's obviously gone through a lot of rough patches. But the one thing the Patriots did in this game was just showed a lot of resilience. Mac Jones, this was kind of his first kind of down game. Uh, he had a lot of chances. A lot of the receivers were open. He didn't really have his best game. The Chargers did a good job of kind of disguising defenses. He did go 18-35, 218 passing yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions, but he was close to getting picked off a couple of times. The Patriots, I remember that play calling that they had by the one. The Patriots were basically kind of the way it happened was, the Chargers had the first drive, they scored, it looked like, oh, here we go. And then the Patriots went right back. They answered David Harris with another run. David Harris is playing great football lately, too. And then the Chargers come right back, Herbert to Keenan Allen. And then the Patriots kind of stalled a couple drives. They were right in that goal line. They had a fourth down that they couldn't complete. The thing is, the Patriots answered on the next drive. They gave the Chargers 3 and out, back-to-back 3 and outs, and the Patriots were able to get 2 field goals to cut the lead from 14-7 to 14-13. The Patriots were able to have a decent drive in the third quarter to take the lead of 16-14. Chargers took the lead, and they're going to the fourth. The Patriots, they needed to make an answer drive, and Justin Herbert, they had to, in order to win this game, they might have had to get some turnovers. The Patriots had some turnovers on themselves too. Kendrick Bourne had a catch and a fumble. They had just their penalties. They still kind of shot themselves in the foot. But when it came down to the final minutes, they had like a 5 to 6 minute finish, great drive that could have been their best drive of the season. They kind of had a slow start. They've had kind of a lot of their great starts, and they kind of did not finish games well in the last couple weeks. And this game, they kind of started off slowly and then really picked up and made the plays down the stretch they needed to make. In the fourth quarter, Adrian Phillips with the second interception of the game, and led to a pick six, and they went for 2, and Mac Jones found who else but Jacoby Myers, who still hasn't had a regular touchdown, but he's able to get, the 2-point conversion type of plays that he had one last year in Buffalo too from Cam Newton. So it's 24-14. The Patriots had a big drive, took a bunch of timeouts away, clock away from the Chargers, and Folk made it. Nick Folk's been absolute money lately for this whole season. It gets a 30-yarder, 27-17. The Chargers did go down the field. They did score kind of at the end. The Patriots kind of did get a little bit lackadaisical kind of at the end, but they kicked the onside kick. Patriots, onside kicks really are rarely successful now these days. Just kind of the way it is. And who else but Hunter Henry, former Charger, gets the onside kick, and that's the game. So good one for the Patriots, a really good one to get themselves kind of back within the reach. It's kind of been up and down type of season. They had a lot of downs in this game too, but this is a really good win, a really good resiliency type win. They had 21 first downs. They were 9-19 from third downs, which is big. Their third down efficiency was good. Consider that Mac Jones didn't really have his best game, so that's a big thing too. And Matt Judon just continues to be outstanding. They did get some pressure on Justin Herbert, but their passing defense, I thought, was definitely progressed as the game went on. But Herbert also was a little bit off in this game, and so he did get a little bit lucky there too. So, like I said, a lot of things kind of go into a good win, and move on to Carolina next week. This is going to be another tough test. Like I told you off air, they're a 4-14, the same record as you. So, they're going to bring it, and we'll see how the game goes on Sunday.
We'll have to wait and see. Now we'll talk about our players of the game on offense. I have to say my offensive player of the game it's Mac Jones and Damian Harris. On defense, I'm going with Matt Judon, and on special teams, he had a pretty good return here, and that's Gunnar Olszewski.
Yeah, so I'm going to go with offense. I'm going to go with Kendrick Bourne. I'm going to go Nelson Aguilar. He made a couple of big catches. He had 6 targets, but he had 3 receptions for 60 yards. He had a 44-yard catch, I think was his longest. So I think Aguilar did okay in this game. My defensive players were a combination of Adrian Phillips, who had 2 interceptions, Matt Judon, who was a great guy, pass rushing wise, which has been great all season. And then Christian Barmore continues to be a stud at D tackle. The Chargers' right side of their line was all backups. So it was a big mismatch in terms of the Patriots had that advantage to them. So that was a big way that they can get some pressure on Justin Herbert. And then special teams is fantastic. Gunnar Olszewski just thrives in California, taking those punt returns. I mean, he had some big ones that gave them great field possession, and then Nick Folk continues to just keep on doing great. So those are my players.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I'm going to put Adrian Phillips in there, too, as my defensive player of the game. He made that pick six, and I think that he knows what the Chargers are all about, and I'm looking forward to seeing what the Patriots do against Sam Darnold and the Carolina Panthers. It's going to be a great game up in Charlotte, but I do think the Patriots will win, but we'll talk about that game in just a little bit here. So we'll talk about now one of my biggest takeaways in Week 8. I'm going to go with the Cincinnati Bengals losing to the New York Jets. Oh, my God. I'm not on that Mike White hype train,
Yeah, it was – I mean, though the biggest thing about the NFL is you just – no matter what week it is, you can't really take a game off. You can say, yeah, it's the Jets, but I thought White actually looked pretty good against the Patriots for a little while when he came in. Who knows if it can create a controversy, but he was Offensive Player of the Week actually too. So yeah, 400 plus yards. He's with 3 touchdowns. He had 2 picks, but the Jets obviously with the big one there. They had 32 first downs for a team that has really struggled. So give them credit. The Bengals, of course, were riding in as one of the hot teams. They just beat the Ravens in Baltimore, so that was obviously a stunning game for sure. But the Jets play, tomorrow against the Colts, and that should be an interesting one too. So we'll see if the Jets can continue to have their offense kind of play with it like the way that they did last week.
All right. So now with that being said here, let's talk about our divisional standings heading into Week 9 from Week 8. Let's start with the AFC East. The Buffalo Bills coming off a win over the Miami Dolphins as they're 5-2. They're one game ahead of the New England Patriots for first place, even though I think they should be ahead by more. The Patriots are 4-4. The New York Jets are 2-5. And the Dolphins are 1-7. I feel like that the Dolphins, don't count them out just yet. They're going to play the Texans, and I think that the Miami Dolphins are going to get hot at the right time.
Laura, I mean, you said it for I'll keep your words to it. I mean, you said it for the last several weeks that you think they're going to get hot, and so I'm not gonna argue with you. But yeah, I mean, for this division, I think it's between the Bills and the Pats. I think we still both agree that the Bills are probably going to win this division, but it's going to come down to those 2 games. I think 2 out of the 3 weeks are kind of near each other, right? So it should be a lot of fun. And the Bills just beat the Dolphins. The Bills have looked pretty good, I think, for the most part. Patriots are back at 500. The Patriots are 4-1 in the conference. I mean, they haven't played yet the Bills, but still pretty good. Barely kind of the way that I've seen it. The Jets are 2-5. The Jets are not going to be going anywhere. I understand that they had a good one against the Bengals, but they're still a rebuilding team. They have a lot of issues. I don't think they're going anywhere. And then the Dolphins. I'm sorry, Lower, but they definitely need a roster shakeup. Their front office, they have a lot of stuff going on lately with them. We didn't even mention the Deshaun Watson situation. Obviously they talked about that to the trade deadline. You were definitely all over that. I thought potentially he could have been gotten moved, but there's obviously reports out that they're going to wait till this offseason. I think that Deshaun Watson should have a chance to play next year. It definitely felt really weird not seeing him. Understand, barely obviously with the civil law situation, but if they obviously can figure out his situation, and we can see if he can get back to playing football for sure, because he's such a talented quarterback, and I think they're definitely going to be a team out there. I know the Dolphins kind of had some talks with him, and they kind of backed out. about that. I think Tua is their future still, like we've kind of talked about, but I think Deshaun Watson should find a home somewhere. And we have to see, I still think that talk and Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson, I still think all three of them have a good chance of still leaving this offseason. I think preferably Deshaun Watson, I think will find a new home, but there's going to be a lot of quarterbacks, because I don't think this NFL draft class, their quarterbacks are much kind of compared to last year. So I think that it's going to be a lot of kind of free agent quarterbacks, and you kind of have those obviously you have the Russell Wilson potentially.
I want to say this. I mean, I think that Tua Tagovailoa will remain the Dolphins starting quarterback.
Yeah.
I don't think he's going anywhere. I think Aaron Rodgers will stay in Green Bay. I think there's a good chance of that happening, and I think Russell Wilson will remain a Seahawk.
Now, do you think Deshaun Watson will remain a Texan after this year?
No. I see him going to the Denver Broncos.
Okay. All right. I mean, because Denver's obviously going to try to find a new quarterback. Carolina, I would not rule out. I don't know if Sam Darnold's completely their future. I mean, I think that he's a decent bridge guy, but I think Sam Darnold could, I'm not saying he could get moved again, but we'll see about that. I definitely wouldn't rule out anything about Sam Darnold or Gardner Minshew even. I wouldn't rule out even, the Jalen Hurts, the situation kind of been a little iffy there in Philly. If Jalen Hurts maybe gets somewhere, move decent or whatever. But we'll have to find out. So that's kind of the AFC. So let's go to the AFC West. This is definitely a really close, tight division for sure now.
Well, before we go there, I mean, let's look at the Dolphins' schedule. They got the Texans, then they get the Ravens, the Jets, the Panthers, and the Giants. Could you see them winning one of these games? It looks pretty easy.
All right. So the Dolphins, I think they'll win the Texans. The Texans just can't score. I mean, the fact that we made Davis Mills look like Joe Namath, Joe Montana out there was kind of embarrassing. Thankfully, we ended up winning that game. But it was for sure really, really ugly. I think they'll lose against the Ravens. I don't know. I mean, I want to rule out the Jets winning that game. I mean, I think the Jets could definitely give them a fight for sure. They always kind of seem like they do. I think that the Panthers, I don't know how much I believe in the Panthers anymore. I think that they could also beat the Giants. So I do think that there could be some wins on the board, but I think it could be too little too late, to be honest, Loro.
Well, they got that extra game here, so we'll just have to wait and see what happens.
Yeah, for sure.
So now let's go on from the AFC East to the AFC North. It is a tough division this year. And I'll tell you what, it is. I think this division's it's going to come down to the wire here, folks.
Yep.
The Ravens are 5-2. The Bengals are 5-3. The Steelers are 4-3, and the Browns are 4-4. It is tough, but I think Cleveland can find a way to get back into the mix.
It's a really close division. The West and the North are extremely close. Baltimore 5-2. Cincy's 5-3. Pittsburgh's 4-3. Cleveland. I don't see one team really. I mean, in that division that can be like that's the team that's going to be the one to beat. I think they're really all kind of good in their own ways. But since he's actually playing the Bengals, since he's actually playing the Browns this weekend, and that should be a measuring stick in terms of how that game will go. Another thing we haven't mentioned yet, Loro, is the Odell Beckham situation, and I think that Odell Beckham. People, including myself, are kind of that Odell Beckham to the Patriots type of dream. But I think that Odell Beckham situation, I think that he's going to get released or he's going to get caught. I've heard many reports out there that he's, obviously the Odell Beckham with his dad, posting on that video and stuff like that. I don't see, I know Baker Mayfield said today that he maybe could take his ego out of the situation to kind of get himself along with Odell Beckham. I think Odell Beckham is leaving. I think that the Saints have a very good opportunity. I know Michael Thomas, we even mentioned him, but he's out for the season. They announced that today. So, but I think Odell Beckham has a chance to go to somewhere, be kind of, I wouldn't say revive his career, but become potentially, himself to get more targets in a kind of a system that needs more receiver help. Because really the Browns have a lot of targets. So, I think Baker, of course, Odell Beckham kind of didn't get much in terms of targets. And, I think he deserves to go somewhere else for sure, but we'll see how that situation goes from the rest of the week. But I do think that Pittsburgh could give the Bears a really tough test on Monday night. That should be a really fun game. So yeah, I mean, I think all teams outside of the Browns who are under 500 conference wise, they're all really right there. I mean, it should be fascinating to see kind of who will win it.
Yeah, I think so too. I think the AFC North has definitely turned into one of the tougher divisions in football right now. So we're going to go to our comments now. Christy Wilson, welcome. Thank you for joining us. She says the Bills are just too good. And she says, in terms of Aaron Rodgers, I think that he might retire and become the host of Jeopardy. I don't think that's going to happen. He's going to play for the Packers next year, assuming if they make a Super Bowl run. And then the winner of the AFC North may be decided in the last game of the regular season. We're going to have to wait and see about that.
That'll be interesting for sure.
Now to the AFC South. But the Tennessee Titans, what's impressive is they're still 6-2, and they're going to be without Derrick Henry for the whole season. I think that's a big blow for the Titans. All they need to do is play 500 football, and I think they'll be good to go. And I think they still have a good shot at winning this division. I think the Colts can catch them up as well. And then the Jaguars and Texans are both battling for last place.
The Texans and Jags are basically battling for who will be finishing top 3, I guess, in the drafts. But I mean, yeah, the Titans, of course, were rolling. They had a big win against at the Indianapolis Colts, but they obviously took it. And as they say, a win's a win, but you take it at a price. And for the long run, we'll see if Derrick Henry will be back by the end of the season. I do think you're right, Loro, too. I've seen the Schefters of the world and other guys out there that I think his season's done.
But he'll be back assuming if the Titans make the playoffs. I think Derrick Henry will be back.
He could be back, probably by playoffs. We'll see. But, that franchise revolves around Derrick Henry. I mean, when you talk about the offense in terms of how to be successful in that offense, you feed one of the best running backs in football. And I know A.J. Brown's been playing great at receiver, but you look at outside of Ryan Tannehill and now A.J. Brown, you're going to have to rely on Ryan Tannehill to throw a lot more too. And I'm not saying Ryan Tannehill can't throw, but he's more of a game manager type in a system with a great running back that doesn't have to throw the football a lot. Now he's going to have to throw a lot more than he's accustomed to. They did get Adrian Peterson. This was kind of a flyer. I mean, he's not going to be prime back 2012, 2013 AP, but, he might be able to give you, 10 carries for 40, maybe even 50 yards here and there, maybe just using the goal line. But you're not going to replace a guy like Derrick Henry. You're just not. Julio Jones, they obviously got him in the off season. He's been kind of up and down, on the health, on the injury report week by week. So really, I mean, the Titans are kind of in a bind. But like you said, they're 6-2. They're 3-0 in division. They're 5-0 in conference. The Colts, I don't know, to me, Loro, I mean, Carson Wentz has just been so inconsistent. I think that he definitely, the offensive line's good and stuff, but, it's definitely a hit or miss kind of each week for Carson Wentz. But, I still think that they have a chance to kind of get within reach, potentially of a wild card. I think the Titans have that division. I'm not saying all the wraps are in lock because you just never know, especially now with Henry out. But if the Titans, of course, kind of play with 500-plus ball through the rest of the season, they should be able to win that division. So really, it's only out of those 4 teams, 2 teams that have a good chance. Of course, the Titans are going to be a team probably to look out for. They're playing good football.
Now on to the AFC West. You got the Raiders in first place, then the Chargers in second. The Chiefs are 4-4, and then the Broncos are 4-4.
Yeah, so this is, a lot of people are saying Kansas City. Obviously myself included. They've kind of been at the AFC cream of the crop for the last several years. I don't know what's going on with the Chiefs, man. They won against the Giants, but they had to barely got it out. If they won by several scores, I'm like, maybe the Chiefs could be back. But, oh, man, they're extremely beatable. Their defense has a lot of problems. For at least the first couple of weeks, maybe the Chiefs might have had off games here and there. It happens, even the best of them. But now we're in week 8, 9, and they just continue to have the same struggles as they've had for a while. So it's kind of the team that they really are. I do think that Patrick Mahomes is going to definitely get himself back on track at some point. I don't understand the people that are going to criticize him like crazy. I mean, he's been bad. He hasn't been the same guy he used to be. He's missing a lot of throws. He's made a lot of bad reads that we haven't really been accustomed to seeing with Patrick Mahomes. But he's so good that, of course, I think he'll make adjustments. I remember when people thought Tom Brady was done, he was washed up after the Patriots. I know this very well, against the Kansas City Chiefs, actually, as a matter of fact, in Arrowhead. And people were saying, well, this is not – the Chiefs aren't a dynasty, and I think people have to realize that the Chiefs could be like a mini dynasty, if anything, but they're, the Patriots really did as just almost second to none. I'm not even taking mine. I mean, if I was not even a Patriot fan, I'd be like, this is just incredible. Like, this cannot be done. Just consistency, though, I mean, insane. So the Chiefs are 4-4. I still think the Chiefs can find a way to slip in, but they're not playing great. Denver is 4-4, but they just moved on from one of their most premier cornerstone pieces in Von Miller. They're going to probably go rebuilding mode. They don't really know what they're doing at quarterback. So I don't know really how much I can trust them in their head coaching situation with Vic Fangio and all that. So, and I mean, the Chargers are very hit or miss. I mean, Herbert hasn't played great, at least in the last couple weeks. He's been good. And the Raiders, you kind of just don't really know about. They're very hit or miss, too. So it's a very close division of teams that are just kind of there right
now. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, they're just right there. But before we talk about the NFC East and all that, want to send our thoughts and prayers to Ernie Johnson. He lost his son Michael due to a muscular disorder that he passed away from. And also one of your favorite Red Sox broadcasters, Jerry Remy. He passed away after a long battle of cancer. But let's start with Jerry Remy. I know, Ben, you are a Red Sox fan for life, and you grew up listening to Jerry Remy call the Red Sox game on NESN with Dave OBrien and Don Orsillo. That is a huge loss to the Boston Red Sox broadcast booth.
Yeah, I mean, it hit me pretty hard that day. It still is definitely surreal to not. It's when you basically heard him at February come spring training, you knew that Red Sox baseball was back. I got the pleasure to listen to him for very many good seasons, a lot of great fun games. Just his presence and his voice, it was pretty surreal to see. And between him and Don Orsillo, I think it's probably two of my favorite guys ever broadcast, taking my bias out. But it definitely hit me hard, and they're going to do some type of service for him. So it definitely is tough. Just even thinking about it, it definitely sucks. But he was going through a lot. He's a fighter. He had to go through a bunch of chemo treatments, and it's unfortunate the way it happened. He didn't broadcast a lot of games last year with the team, but he did come out and threw the first pitch against the Yankees in that wild card winner take all game. So it's pretty easy to see that, and to win it for him now specifically seems just great. So it was tough for sure, and we're definitely going to miss him deeply.
Oh yeah, I bet. Bill Belichick. I heard he had a nice tribute for Jerry Remy at his at the press conference. We have to bring that up. I mean, because Jerry Remy is always going to be an icon of a player of the Boston Red Sox, but he's more known as a broadcaster. He was a great analyst. I mean, he knew what he was talking about when you would hear him call the game. But who did you like better on the Boston Red Sox TV team? Was it Dave OBrien and Jerry Remy, or Don Orsillo and Jerry Remy?
I mean, they both have their own pros, I guess you'd say. I mean, I'd probably go with Don a little bit more. Dave OBrien, I had a hard time kind of starting with, after Don left, but I grew up with his voice for sure. Dave's been pretty good, but I mean, Jerry was good really with anybody. I mean, he really just brought it all. His not only as a person, just his sense of humor. It was definitely something. You're not going to replace a guy like him, to say the least.
Who do you think? My question for you is: who do you think is going to replace Jerry Remy in the booth next to Dave OBrien? Is it going to be Dennis Eckersley?
I mean, the thing was that Jerry really wasn't doing a lot of games last year. He's kind of like a part timer anyway. So they had a lot of Eck. I thought Eck was pretty good. They had Lenny DiNardo a couple times. He was a former pitcher for the Red Sox. They had Ellis Burks. They had him. So they kind of used different type of guys to kind of fill the role. I think it's going to be Eckersley if I had to choose one.
You mean Eckersley as the full-time color analyst next to Dave OBrien, or do you think they'll go with a three-man team with Ellis Burks, Dave OBrien, and Eck?
I think they'll do that. I mean, they can go three-man, but I think the two is going to be probably their best bet right now.
Yes, and I think Ellis Burks will probably be in the studio with Tom Curran.
Yep.
Who's a Patriots reporter, and he's also a Red Sox reporter too.
Oh, Tom Curran. Oh no. Well, actually, it's Tom Curran's actually not the Patriots reporter. Tom E. Curran. That's the Patriots guy.
Tom E. Curran is the Patriots reporter, and then Tom Curran is the Red Sox host for Nesson, and he has filled in at times for Dave OBrien.
Mm-hmm.
Because Dave OBrien has ACC network commitments during college football.
Yeah, it is football too sometimes. So, and basketball. He does basketball as well.
Yeah, he does. I mean, he does that, and then
there's a lot of stuff.
And then Will Fleming, Dave Fleming's brother, is part of your team.
Yep.
With Joe Castiglione. I wonder how he's feeling right now. Have you heard anything about how Joe Castiglione is feeling about Jerry Remy?
I mean, he's probably pretty emotional about it. Joe is probably my favorite outside of Jerry, really. I mean, when I think about Red Sox baseball, out behind the scenes, I love Joe and I love Jerry. So they're two guys that you can't replace.
And then you also want to talk about Ernie Johnson's son, Michael, who passed away with a muscular disease. He was living with ALS pretty much almost his entire life. Yeah.
Definitely tough to hear, sure. And wish and sending my condolences and prayers over to Ernie and the family.
And also to the Turner sports team for the NBA, like Kenny Smith, Shaq, Charles Barkley. They even did the show without Ernie Johnson.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, how Boston sports fans has been through a lot of rough times with deaths. With Jerry Remy passing away, it might have hit you hard when Boston Celtics color analyst Tommy Heinsohn passed away.
Yeah.
And he and Mike Gorman. Mike Gorman is the voice of the Boston Celtics. Mike Gorman is still the man.
Yeah. I listened to some of him tonight actually when they play the Magic. Yeah, he still does a good job. But yeah, Tommy was definitely a special one too. He's definitely Skell's okay.
But you like Mike Gorman the best when it comes to Boston Celtics TV?
I like Gorman. Yeah, I actually got a chance to meet. Well, I got a chance to meet Mike Gorman a couple years ago at a Celtics game. Before the game, he walked actually right past me, and I got the chance to say hi. He seemed like a really nice guy, and so yeah, he's a really good guy, really good reporter.
Yeah, good television voice for the Celtics for many years.
Yep,
He's been the Celtics voice since the Larry Bird days.
Yeah.
And then on to the NFC East. The Cowboys are 6-1. They won a game without Dak Prescott. The Eagles, they're getting there with the win over the Lions, but I think their schedule is going to be a bit tougher for them down the road. And then the Washington football team and the Giants have been disappointing.
Yeah, so we'll go to the disappointing teams first. The Giants, it's just a year-by-year type thing. The Giants, they were in they had a chance to beat the Chiefs. The Chiefs basically were giving that game to the Giants, and the Giants didn't even take advantage of that. Penalties and just coaching. That's just kind of the summary of the Giants season. That's why I think that they had to have changed in the offseason. They made a ton of moves in the offseason to try to get themselves better, and it's the Giants for you. They don't really adapt to anything. They don't really find ways to win. They find ways to obviously shoot themselves in the foot a whole lot and don't get the job done there. So then Washington, of course, has been disappointing for sure. I think their defense. The fact is that they've are one of the last final teams in the division, and the defense is one of the stronger suits. Just says it all. So they've been disappointing. And the Eagles are just kind of there. I still don't know how much I trust that defense. Offensively, they have their questions as well too. So, yeah, it's really that Dallas team, and give a lot of credit. They seem like they really never missed a beat, and Cooper Rush is their backup, and he's able to have a game-winning drive to Amari Cooper at the end against the Minnesota Vikings. So, yeah, the Dallas is definitely the team that's going to win that division unless something more than beyond a miracle happens.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, Dallas is probably going to be running away with it. That's for sure. So, anyways, now let's talk about the NFC North. The Green Bay Packers with a big win over the Arizona Cardinals. They're 7-1. The Vikings fall to 3-4. The Bears are now 3-5, but the Detroit Lions are looking up.
Yeah, the Lions still have to find a way to get themselves better. I mean, it's unfortunate the way things have happened there. Hopefully that they'll get a win at some point. But there's just a whole lot of bad teams. That's not only just bad, but it's extremely just not even teams that have just been in games. I mean, the Lions have been in a lot of games, so I can't really criticize them for lots, but not winning one. The Bears had a tough one against San Francisco, but Justin Fields continues to be much better. The Packers, beating the Cardinals, that was an incredible game. Came down right to the wire, and Kyler made a big critical mistake, which he should have just. The Cardinals honestly should just spike the ball and force OT. They try to. That was the one thing you didn't want, was try to force one into the end zone. I understand they could go for the win, but take it at least to go to overtime, and they didn't take that advantage, and Packers made a great defensive play, and so that was that. So
yeah, that was that here. I mean, the Lions, they're 0-8. Who knows when they're going to get a win?
We'll say.
Like, if they go 0-17, will they fire Dan Campbell? I'm going to say no.
No, they won't. I mean, because I don't think it's all his fault. I mean,
no, it's not really his fault. He just doesn't have the players.
It's a really young team. So I mean, they're getting overmatched in a lot of these games, but they've been playing hard in a lot of them against good teams. So I got to give them credit for credit.
Yeah, but they just got exposed by Jalen Hurts.
Yep. Yeah. So Eagles don't really score a whole lot of points, and they were able to put up quite a bit this past Sunday. So it's definitely tough for sure.
Then we'll go on to the NFC South. The Buccaneers are in first place. The Saints are in second. The Panthers are in third, and the Falcons are in last. But I'll tell you what, the Falcons, they're showing some fight here.
They are, yeah. I mean, Calvin Ridley's going to be taking some time off for personal reasons. Hopefully, he's going to be okay because he's a big part of their team. Kyle Pitts has really played a lot better lately here. Matt Ryan's been giving the ball, so. I mean, the Falcons, they still want to roll out for them to kind of make a little bit of a push in there. I still don't think that they're going to make the playoffs. The Saints, I mean, they continue to be the Bucs' kryptonite. And, Tom Brady, as much as we love him, he did throw for four touchdowns. But, of course, he lost the game for the Bucs. He had a chance to kind of do what he does great, and he threw a interception where I didn't think was – the right spot for Tom. And so, give credit for the Saints. They made a good play on it, and that's how they won the game.
And then talk about the Saints. They just lost Jameis Winston for the remainder of the season.
Yeah. Jameis was a fun story in the Saints. The Saints are trying to find somebody, obviously, past Drew Brees, and I wanted Jameis to succeed there and do good, and he was doing really good. So, they go to Trevor Siemian, and Sean Payton's such a great coach that he can't be turn these guys into great guys for quarterback, but he's an offensive minded type of coach. So we'll see. We'll see what they kind of do besides that. But yeah, that was tough for sure for the Saints, but a big win for them. The Bucs are 6-2, so I wouldn't still. If you're a Buck fan out there, don't get yourself too down about this one. So yeah, that was kind of in. The Cardinals obviously with a tough one, but the Cardinals are still playing great football. And then
the Rams are in second. If you talk about the NFC West, both teams are both tied for first place, with the exception of the Niners are keeping pace. But the Seahawks, I can't wait to see them take off when Russell Wilson returns. I still think that the Seahawks can still make the playoffs when he returns. Hope that finger. I hope he's 100%, and I expect him to be ready to go for when he plays against Aaron Rodgers.
Oh, definitely, yeah. I mean, that's probably for sure, probably the hope.
All right, now we'll talk about the Patriots and Panthers game preview. Talk about our projection for the final score here. It'll be Sam Darnold and Mac Jones going head-to-head. Obviously, Mac Jones is the better quarterback. And for the Panthers, will they get Christian McCaffrey back? They got a big win last week against the Falcons.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I think McCaffrey can come back for sure. That's obviously huge if they can get him back, and we'll see if the Panthers can respond. They've done a great job this season to kind of face adversity, and for them to win against the Patriots would be a big confidence boost for them. So I think the Patriots have been playing decently lately.
They sure have, but we'll take a look now at the remaining schedule for the Patriots. They'll play the Cleveland Browns next Sunday. That's going to be a pretty good game. Looking forward to seeing Baker Mayfield and Mac Jones go head-to-head. And then they'll take on the Atlanta Falcons on Thursday Night Football. Looking forward to that as well. And then Week 12, they'll take on the Tennessee Titans to close out November. And then they have a test with the Buffalo Bills on December 6th, which I'm looking forward to. And that will be on ESPN's Monday Night Football. The main telecast will be with Steve Levy, Brian Greasy, and Louis Riddick, and Lisa Salters. And then if you want to watch ESPN2, that's going to be with Peyton and Eli.
I love Peyton and Eli. They do a fun job. And I love the guests that they bring on each week. They have a lot of fun.
I started watching the Manning cast since the Seahawks and Saints game. I think I'm gonna tune into their broadcast for the remainder of the season whenever they have the Manning cast. But it looks like that I'll be on the Monday night, the main cast pretty much for some weeks. But I definitely will be tuning. I'll have the Patriots and Bills game on the Manning telecast.
Yep.
With Monday Night Football, Peyton and Eli. Because I can't wait to see what their takes are on the Patriots and Mac Jones. Because Peyton and Eli had their matchups with Tom Brady in the past. So
yeah, for sure.
So they do a fantastic job. And then the Patriots have a bye week. And then they'll have the Colts, the Bills, the Jaguars, and the Dolphins to conclude the season. But when you look at the remaining schedule for the Patriots, let's predict who they will win with and who they'll lose to. I think they're going to beat the Panthers. I think they're going to beat the Browns. I think they're going to beat the Falcons. I think they'll beat the Tennessee Titans without Derrick Henry. And I can see them losing to Buffalo in Buffalo.
Yeah, so, I mean, this coming week, I think they'll win. I think they'll play hard against the Browns, but then come up short. So we'll go to 5-5. And who's their next opponent?
Falcons.
That? They'll win that Falcons game. I don't really speak a whole lot about that Falcons team. They should be able to win. And then who's that game after that?
Tennessee. Rematch of it's going to feel like 2020 all over again. That was the last time Brady ever suited up in a Patriots uniform.
Yeah.
They'll kind of feel that,
Vrabel coming back too. Yeah. I think the Patriots will actually win that game. I'll tell you why, because you take Henry out, I think that they'll definitely make Brian Tannehill throw the ball like crazy, make AJ Brown beat them. And Brown's a good receiver, don't get me wrong, but I think that they'll do what they can to take him out of the game plan and win that game. So
yeah, absolutely. And then you got a bye week, week 14, and then you get week 15, 16, 17, and 18. I mean, there's going to be a lot of good games to talk about in the second half of the schedule. I think the second half of the Patriots schedule is going to begin on Sunday. And this is the second half of the season for the Patriots to begin on Sunday.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So, anyways, now let's talk about some of our expectations in this game. So, one of my expectations for the Patriots is I feel like that you got to keep being aggressive on offense. The Panthers have a really, really good defense. They just got Stephon Gilmore on the other side. It's going to be fun to see him go head-to-head against his former team.
Oh, yeah, that should be fun. I hope that we can beat Gilly, though.
Yeah, we got to beat him, though. I think the Panthers have a good pass defense. I think their front is pretty good, but I think the Patriots are going to handle them. And I think Bill Belichick and Matt Rule going head-to-head. Them going head-to-head would be fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So anyways, now we'll talk when we talk about the Patriots here. So they didn't do anything much at the trade deadline, so I'm okay with it. But my expectation is that the Patriots are going to get receiving help for Mac Jones in the offseason. I think it's going to be more in the draft. Like, if you watch Alabama football like I do, I really want the Patriots to get John Mechie.
I would love that, but I don't know if they'll go that high on him.
The reason why I say that is because I want an Alabama reunion with Damian Harris, John Mechie, Mac Jones.
That would be fun.
And then I don't know what the situation is with Trent Brown. So you might want to get a right tackle.
Yeah. I like Owenu at right tackle, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's done a good job of stepping in for Trent Brown.
Yeah.
And then on defense, I mean, I think for the Patriots, my keys for them defensively is you got to stop Sam Darnold, and I think that you got to find a way to stop McCaffrey if he plays that game.
Yeah, you want to stop DJ Moore. DJ Moore is probably the most dangerous playmaker outside of McCaffrey. So, I know Belichick called him a problem. So, I think that's, of course, a big one there, too.
Yeah, and then also calling this game, looking forward to hearing Greg Gumbel, the legend of CBS Sports, call that game with Adam Archuleta.
Yeah, I don't know the last time the Patriots had Greg Gumbel on. I kind of like Greg Gumbel, so it should be fun.
Yeah, we've had Andrew Catalon. I love him and James Lofton together.
Yep.
James Lofton's a really good analyst for CBS with Catalon. Catalon has a good voice. He has excitement.
He does. Yep.
And then Ian Eagle, I love him with CD. They are a good team together as the number 2 team on CBS.
Mm-hmm.
And then we've had plenty of Kevin Harlan and Trent Green. And Kevin Harlan is really good.
Yeah.
And I want to get more of Jim Nantz and Tony Romo. They are the best.
They're the best. They're
the best number
best
one.
in business.
But who do you like out of them? Do you like Catalon and Lofton?
Catalon and Lofton are okay.
Yeah. And then I just think, but we're getting Greg Gumbel this week, and I like Greg Gumbel. He's a legend of CBS Sports, and I think that he will. So anyway, some of my final thoughts. So we're gonna have our next episode. It'll be kind of a Veterans Day edition next week. We will be, and you and I will be talking about the Patriots taking on the Cleveland Browns, and I think that should be a really, really good game. But you know what? Bill Belichick against second-year head coaches like Kevin Stefanski. I think he's going to expose Kevin Stefanski.
He could. That'll be interesting. I hope that he can do it.
But the Bengals play the Browns, and I think that's going to be a really, really good game.
Really good game. Yep, I do too.
But I'm kind of looking. Some of my final thoughts is that I'm looking forward to Patriots, Panthers, Chargers, Eagles. I think the Chargers are going to bounce back and get that win, and then the Rams taking on the Tennessee Titans.
Yep, a lot of good games. I think the Patriots, Panthers. I hope the Patriots win. I think they will win. That'll be close. And yeah.
And then I missed you on the extra point, so you couldn't join that night because you were probably sleeping after Halloween.
Yeah, I was pretty tired, honestly. I think that night, but I'll be back here Sunday for sure. I'll love to talk. Be back on the extra point.
All right, I look forward to our next extra point episode, and then also what we have going on about our final thoughts. I mean, looking forward to seeing the Patriots get the win here. I mean, their schedule looks pretty easy down the stretch, but it's not going to be easy against teams like Tennessee or Buffalo, though.
Nope, it's not going to be easy at all. They're going to all be tough.
We already played the Jets. I mean, we already swept their season series with the Jets. I think the Patriots will probably beat the Dolphins in Miami, or maybe the Dolphins could beat us.
Yep.
Because Brian Flores knows us pretty well, and I don't expect him being on the hot seat. So speaking of coaches on the hot seat, you don't think Brian Flores should be fired from the Dolphins?
I don't know.
There was rumors about it, and I think he's the right coach for them.
Yeah, for sure.
It's just
he just has to get the players.
Just too many injuries on their front. So, anyways, Ben, we're going to wrap this up, and we'll talk to you on Sunday for the extra point. And also, Ben and I are going to continue talking about launching our MLB off-season show, and then we're going to also launch our MLB show during the regular season on our stream, on the Loro Sports Pod StreamYard site as well. And then we'll also do some NBA as well.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for having me, Loro, like always. Go Pats this Sunday, and love to talk with you next week. And, yeah, hope you have a great rest of the week, man.